the center from which the rock pierced the water faster.
Right.
Right. But if you drop it in the ocean, it's still gonna come back, but who knows when? Right. That's a unrefined intentions. That means that you want it, you think you deserve it, but you don't know how to get it, so you don't think you're gonna ever get it. So that makes it take longer to come back. Oh, that's why they say don't put yourself in a box. Stand in the circle, stand on pi 3.14, the center of the circle. Because everything that you put out from the center has to return back to the center in due time.
Right.
Right. In the tighter your intention field is, the faster it can return. Remember we was talking about Brother Panic and those platonic solids that he was using for manifestation?
Polite. No, Brother Polite.
Brother Polite, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that is, when you use those, you are going in between intentions of similar ideas. And then you infusing it with your willpower, which makes your barrel smaller for your ripples to return faster. So this is why he was using that. That's an old kinetic science that's most people don't know how to properly activate.
Very interesting. All right, Rod. So one of the things you mentioned, Brother Panic, and I don't want to misquote Brother Panic. Rest in power to Brother Panic. Shout out to Khadijah. I talked to his wife the other day. I'm actually going to be doing some family with her in February. She's going to be doing a presentation on the channel. So shout out to Khadijah and rest in power to the spirit, the soul of Brother Panic. But I don't want to misquote him. But he said something along the lines of, now when we talk about ether, when you see the pentagram, I hope I'm saying it right. The pentagram, they said the top part represents the ether. I believe Panic said when you want to manifest something, this is why certain people wear the pentagram upside down, because that represents bringing the ether down to this realm. Talk to me about why some people may wear a upside down, or when they do rituals, they may have an upside down pentagram versus some people have a pointing up pentagram. Rob, what might be the difference in manifesting something?
Well, it's the power, the energy frequency you're using for manifestation, right? So first of all, you gotta know what the pentagrams is. The 5-pointed star is the pentagram. And it's the representation of the divine feminine as Venus energy. The upside down pentagram is the masculine takeover of the feminine by decapitating the woman. So you gave her a phallus and took her head. So you're using the reverse of her system against her, or the feminine nature. But people think when you say feminine and divine feminine that you're talking about gender. It's about frequency.
What divine feminine?
Right. So the women just have the more of the tools to activate the feminine to a higher degree of expression than the male, who have the anatomy to manifest the masculine to the highest potential of male. Right. So that's the difference in the two. So when you're using the energy, ascending energy and descending energy, fraternal twins, Gemini field, between two pillars. When you're using the energy going up, that's the upward facing triangle. When you use it drawing down the energy, that's the downward facing triangle. Right. So what you're trying to do is meet in the middle, and that gives you the 6-point star. But when you see it in the 3-dimensional expression, you have what's called the Merkaba, 2 pyramids interlocked.
Right. I was going to
and then when you spin the Merkaba, you start to produce the crown of life. The crown of life is how the Merkaba look when it's fully spinning. It's moving too fast for you to see it with the naked eye, so it looked like a ball with a whole bunch of sides. This is how the elders explain it in the Kemetic philosophies. when they're showing us the difference in the fields and the energy. This is why modern religion took out things like the GINDJAB, which means that you need a pillar or a polarizing force. Just like you need a catalyzing force, you need a polarizing force. A polarizing force, if you can control the polarizing force, you can control both sides of the pole.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is, back again, standing on 3.14, standing on pi in the center of the circle. But first you have to learn to govern your micro circle before you can start dabbling in your macro circle. First you have to get yourself under control before you try to control others. And the way that you control yourself will determine how you control others. If you're hard on yourself, you're going to be hard on other people. And they don't understand the people that's hard on them. It's hard on them because they're hard on themselves. But it really is not being hard on you. What it really is being forcing you to stand on your determination and exercise your willpower by showing you what it looked like when somebody stand on their principles and exercise their willpower. And we tend to become so soft in this modern era that it becomes offensive for somebody to become direct, standing on their principles and exercising their willpower. We get offended because we not doing it. Right? Everybody want to be like Mike, but don't nobody want to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning shooting free throws.
I'm telling you, man.
And everybody that wanted to be like Mike that made it to that level, Kobe Bryant or LeBron or James, you got to look at the practice that got them to the level.
Right.
Because it's the practice that determines the outcome when it comes time to get in that ring. When the rubber meet the road and it's time for the fight, what did you train yourself for?
Right.
Right. That's all using that force, by the way.
That force, right.
And the better trained you is, the more adept you is at using the force. Right. And then it comes out expressed as muscle memory. Right, or rote memory, but it comes out as some kind of memory recall mechanism.
Right.
You put the work in, you're going to get the results out, though they might not be as fast as you would like them to be. They coming. But most people don't have the drive to put the work in, so they never train themselves to use their willpower to bring about their best life.
Right. And hold on, where's this at? Give me a second, y'all. In Plato's, and I should be showing this on the screen, but let me just read this. In Plato's Timaeus, I hope I'm saying that right. Timaeus. So in Plato's Timaeus, he says, speaking on the topic of air, he said, there is the most translucent kind, which is called by the name ether. I want to ask you, with him saying that, Rod, I want to ask you. Now, I've heard Delbert, you mentioned Dr. Blair earlier. I've heard you and many others say that the air they breathed in antiquity when the giants roamed the land is not the air that we breathe now. Did they breathe a more direct form of ether? And what we get now is a bootleg version, but they was getting that, you know how you get cocaine and that shit is pure, and then some niggas step on it? Are we getting the stepped on cocaine? Are we breathing the stepped on cocaine? But they had the raw and uncut cocaine, i.e. ether, back in antiquity, and this is why they were giants, Rod. Is this what Plato's referring to?
The size was based on the 12-strand DNA and the oxygen transfer capability. The oxygen is critical. Because remember, they say so biblically, this is how they tell it. They say that the waters of the sky was separated from the waters of the earth, right? And never knowing it's still water between the upper atmosphere and the earth, but it's a different part of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is in layers, right? But the layer that we was breathing during the Atlantean era before the war that caused nuclear contamination was the ozone oxygen, double oxygen molecules that reduced the amount of entropy produced in the process of breathing which is the transfer of spirit, inner and outer, in order to recycle the energy field. Now, if you look at the air that we breathe in, we have all these other chemicals and gases in the air that's been put in there. That's radioactive particles. Then you have some that's that activate on organs and do different stuff to the organs. All these is chemicals that's in the air. People be worrying about eating clean food, but ain't nobody worried about breathing clean air. And the air quality is directly related to the size of the animal that dwelled on the planet. The dinosaurs couldn't live in this oxygenated environment unless they downsized their massive bulk, because the oxygen would not be sufficient to facilitate them in their survival. They would slowly suffocate.
Right.
We already got fish scales, but they just call it ashy skin.
No, he talking about fish scale is that pure cocaine. So he making a reference. He making a reference to that pure cocaine.
That Peruvian flake.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, y'all some funny dudes in the chat. Very, very interesting conversation. Rod, so what I want to ask you about now is they say, all right, let me ask you this, Rod. All right, so a lot of things got demonized. Some of the most spiritual things that can help us got demonized. So
like Baphomet,
all that type of stuff. Everything that pretty much could benefit, they turn evil or to the devil or unlucky, like the number 13, things like that. So they say, researching on the internet, they say that the middle finger represents the ether. Now the middle finger has been demonized, right? You put up the middle finger, if you're spiritual and you go like this, you feel like a derelict. You feel horrible. You feel like a degenerate.
This is ether.
So why on the internet they say the middle finger is ether then?
That's air. It's earth, fire, air, water, ether. Some people may use it to represent the ether, right? Because remember, what happened to the fire when it get done burning? Where did it go?
Yeah.
It went back to the ether.
Yeah.
Right. And he left all of the carbon, which is the physical byproduct of going back to the ether. It's called ashes. Right. Remember when earlier when I was talking about the orgone accumulator? That's the opaque ether that he was talking about when you say that it's the purest form of air.
Right.
Before nuclear war, see, people they only think of the nuclear fallout, the radioactive aftermath of a war. What they don't think about is the chemical changes to all of the things that the radioactivity affected. Right. And the only time they pay that attention is when they go to Chernobyl, where they had the most devastating nuclear meltdowns in recent memory. And now they seeing 6-legged cats and frogs with 18 legs, stuff like that. Now they notice that the radiation does more than just, because you gotta remember, only two things causes a mutation, right? Gradual change over a prolonged period of time, or ultraviolet light bombardment of radioactive particles from the sun. When it's time to evolve, the earth and the sun got to say, humans, level up so that the fish can level up, so that the seals can level up, all the way around the whole animal kingdom. We supposed to be able to read nature, understand how we are naturally, and move in harmony with everything around us. But as part of the byproduct of the entropy, which is the deterioration, you have what's called a negative aspect. Now we going back to Hermetic principle, the law of opposites again. Right? So that's telling you there's somebody good-hearted that's controlling the ether, and there's somebody dark-hearted controlling the ether, wicked at the heart. And they in a struggle, an eternal struggle, right, to establish the dominance of which one going to be in existence after the struggle. That's the story of Set and Osiris, the struggle of the two brothers, two opposing forces with two different ideologies, coming from the same parental source, right? And then the mediator between the two ended up being Isis, which was the sister. And the remedy was for Heru to rise up to the throne, overthrow Set, entropy, extreme chaos, and reestablish the great father, Osiris, Usir, the one who cares for and maintains order among the family. Right? So they telling us metaphysics, quantum physics, then they telling us housekeeping, order and structure of the household. All of that is being told in the same paradigm. Right? And they use the reference of the housemaking in order to explain the physics, because there's more housemakers than it is physics professors. So you now you got to be able to communicate with both. You tell the same story, and then when you explain it to the person that's reading the story, how to look at it from their field of study, it changes the paradigm and how they perceive their spiritual growth.
Right. All right, so Rod, so let's go in this direction. So we talked about earlier about empty space, and I told you how I want to stress to my community that empty space is really not empty. So another thing that I thought about when I think about so-called empty space is silence, the silence in songs. You know, this is something that gets neglected, like empty space in between objects in your house. So the silence within a song is something that gets neglected. Bobby Hemmett talked about a lot about the importance of the silence and how that actually is what made music special. So talk to me about the silence in songs and that connection to the ether, Rod. Because when we think about songs, we think about the sounds. We always talk about the sounds, but there's also a sound that we don't hear in our ears, and that's the silence in between the sounds. So talk to me about the silence in between the sounds.
You ever seen that movie Eddie and the Cruisers?
No, I haven't. No.
They writing a song.
Yeah.
And Eddie is trying to explain what you just said to somebody. Right? And they got a guy that writes songs with him called the Song Man. So the Song Man was trying to give Eddie and the Cruisers a new song. And Eddie was trying to explain the only way the song would work, we need this element in it. And he said, what is this? It's called a haiku.
Yeah.
A strategic silence in the song that makes the rest of the song more compelling to draw you in.
What movie is this?
Eddie and the Cruisers.
Right. I gotta, because I'm a musician, I'm a producer, so I gotta watch this.
Oh man, if you ain't seen Eddie and the Cruisers, but I'm gonna tell you this: once you see it, your whole view on the Tupac situation gonna be like, oh, what the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's let it go. All
right. Yeah. So, in Eddie and the Cruisers is a movie John Cafferty, country singer, did the soundtrack to. And a couple of my favorite songs on there is On the Dark Side, which we was just talking about the Force. But he talking about a lady, right? And he said, from out of the shadow, she walked like a dream. But you would never really know just what I mean. Right? She coming from the dark side. This is what he explained, and she stole his heart. So it's the telling of the story by song that makes the movie so compelling when you understand the story behind the Cruisers. That the movie was actually based off Jim Morrison and the Doors. And then they used a writer named Arthur Rimbaud as the conspiracy effect to the movie. Right. And I think it's Eddie. I think it's 2 parts. It might be 3, but I know it's 2 parts. It's really good. And if you like music, you're going to love that movie. Like I could put it in and leave it in for 7 days without taking it off repeat.
Damn, like that? Shit. That's yeah, I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch that real soon. So let me
teach you about that silence. That strategic silence is often taught about in poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, for instance, if you listen to Gwendolyn Brooks doing stand-up, the last poets, Nikki Giovanni, they all use that strategic side. Even Maya Angelou. When they doing what they call it, they reading their poetry, spoken word, you will see it. And then a lot of times in old poems you read before, you didn't know what the symbol mean for the haiku, which is the strategic silence. Then you go back and read those poems again and they have a whole different effect. Because now you understand the strategic silence. Right. That's like a little, trying to think of a good song that uses the strategic silence. But I can't think of one off the top of my head that it just stick out where everybody that heard the song would know what I'm talking about. Most of them are Friend songs, folk music and stuff like that.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's that strategic silence, because even with you talking, like let's say there could be 2 speakers, Rod. This is a great example. And this is an example of the importance of that silence, or what some people may call empty space, or some people may call ether energy, or whatever. 2 people talking, you could say that strategic silence is talked about in poetry, or you could say that strategic silence is talked about in poetry. And the person who used that silence and said in poetry, yo, it hit my heart. Rod, that shit hit my heart way harder than a person that just said it robotically. So when you said the poetry you use strategic silences in between words and what you want to stress. So that made me think about that. That's how important that silence is. You could impact the person's part. Like imagine a dude talking to his girl and saying he love her, and he says it with silence in between certain words. Like that shit is real important, Rob. We sleep on that, man.
Well, the first person that did something different with that strategic silence in music was Marvin Gaye, on the album with What's Happening, Brother, and I forget some of his biggest songs, but if you pay attention in some of his strategic silence, you will hear people chattering in the background. Right? Because that's the way that he brought your attention to the strategic silence before the next part of the song activate. Because most people don't pay attention to the strategic silence. So you needed the background of day-to-day silence, which is some kind of noise that's not relevant to nothing, playing in the echoes of the empty space, and then the song come back on to give more impact to the next phase of the song, because now your empty space, it's filled with something, a form of silence that you truly understand, which is really noise.
Yeah, and just speaking of noise, when I was talking to you on the phone, Rod, and I said, Rod, what's the best word in the English language that you could use to describe the ethers? And he was like, loud sound. And I didn't think he was going to say that. I think he was going to say some scientific shit, or, whatever. He was like, loud sound. I was like, wow, that's powerful that you would say that, bro. Loud sound. That's the best word, the most efficient word you would use in the English language to describe this force. Now, this is the greatest force in existence. And you said sound, my brother.
Look, they call it the Big Bang, but how did you know if it's a bang if there's no sound?
Ooh, there you go.
No, just think about it. How do they know that a Big Bang ever take place?
Boom.
Two main reasons. One is it's still echoing.
Ooh.
It's echoing on a frequency, what they call a modulated frequency at a chosen interval. And the other way that they know is through something called galactic expansion, which is red shift, blue shift. One is collapsing and the other is expanding. That's what they mean in science. And then in the old Hopi culture, they call it red kachina, blue kachina. And everybody think that this is a star when it's telling you actually a functioning creation more so than it is telling you about a red star and a blue star. It just so happened that the analogy of the red star and blue star match so well that they able to explain it to you using two stars as telling you that they are a force you can't see. Right. You can see the blue star, you can see the red star. It's also talking about the tribes, the father house and the mother house, the blue house and the red house, trying to get to the black and gold house, which is Big Mama house. Red Kachina is the one coming out of the red house and the mama's child, and then the blue Kachina is the one coming out the father's house, the father's child. Right? And in every large family, it's a child ascribed to each parent. Right? Normally, the boys is ascribed to the fathers and the girls is ascribed to the mother. And then you have what's called daddy's girls, where the daughter is ascribed to the father to raise to be a good woman. And then you got mama's boys, which is boys assigned to the mother in order to be taught how to be good men without being fruity. Right. And then you have what's called the royal house, purple, right? The purple reign, REIGN, meaning rulership, comes from the royal arc degree, meaning the matching of the perfect one from the red house, the perfect one from the blue house. And that's how you put together the two keys to open up Big Mama house, which is the bank. Once everything is settled, then it all comes full circle. And so you use the same sciences of creation in order to create, and what we call it manifest now. Right. We don't want to say we creators no more. We want to say we manifestors now. Right. Manifester might work better because it's bringing something into existence out of something that exists, but creation is bringing it out of nothing. But even in nothing, thought exists. Because the thought is the catalyst. It's the cause of it all. It's as a man thinketh. Right? What do that mean? That means let this mind be in you, which was in Christos Isos, or Christ Isis, the great mother. If you can think like the great mother, right brain, full capacity, and you can think like the divine father, and you are a divine son, you become the son of the son. Right? This is symbolically represented as before the sun come over the horizon, first comes Mama, Venus, right? The pentagram, the divine feminine. On her heels comes Mercury, the messenger of the gods, the one who comes to deliver God's message. And after he get done delivering his message, the crack of dawn spread her legs, and out pops Papa, that big old sun that was buried in her underworld.
I like how you break that down, bro. That was crazy. Wow. That was crazy.
But it's also a map. It's a blueprint for the royal families of the earth. It goes back to the book of Daniel, which means the judgment of El. The elder's judgment is rendered in the book of Daniel by giving you a struggle program. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they said they stuck them in the furnace, and the furnace was turned all the way up, and they weren't even scorched. They was able to withstand the fire. The symbolic nature or meaning of that was the furnace was the condition. and the fire was the surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
Harsh environment is the way you refine character, but they use in metallurgy to tell you that their character was being tested and that they were being put to the fire in order to determine who and what they was. And they found out when they came out, what? These are the protected ones from somebody, right? And now Nebuchadnezzar loses mind and loses kingdom. But what happened? When Daniel decided to finally read the writing on the wall, Nebuchadnezzar slapped out of the slumber, realized he's in the jungle among the beasts. Hey, I don't supposed to be here. Symbolic of waking your brother up from the slumber by reading the writing on the wall. In ancient Kemet, we call it hieroglyphics. In New York, we call it graffiti. If you know the land, you can read the graffiti and you can know what tribe is operating under the modern banner of gang. Them tribes.
Wow.
Right? There's no such thing as a gang. A gang is a tribe. It's even in the definition and etymology of the word gang. They tell you it's a tribe or family unit or family group that don't go along with the status quo. Therefore, they don't fit into the system. Right? And then now the gang realized that the tribe, they reconstitute. We was at war. We got murdered, slaughtered. But we ain't died. We multiplied. We baby kids up in here. Who is baby? That's Big Mama. You don't believe me? Go to New Orleans and ask them where baby stay. They're going to be like, which baby? You mean Baby Johnson? Or you talking about Baby Milton over there? That's somebody Big Mama.
Damn.
And Big Mama kids don't never die. We always multiply because we have to answer the oppression with producing children that's offspring born at inception to solve certain social issues in the general public. If you look at the way that we moved in the 50s and 60s, it's not how we moved in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Because we were so heavily saturated with infiltrators, we didn't know what the hell was going on in the 50s and 60s. We know that it was a civil rights bill passed in the 60s, and we thinking that it's for some black people, and it's say indigenous civil rights right on the bill, or Indian civil rights. But it's for us. But we supposed to be from Africa. Right? And then when Martin started to tell it, they got to silence him. Malcolm tried to tell it, so, you know, he had to go draw the infiltrators out. If they in here like you say they in here, make them come out and show themselves. If I go this way, they're going to come out and kill me. Prove it. Right? Chickens